Hey, how's it going, everyone? It is Drago, and we are back with another chapter of Fairy Tale 100 Year Quest, Chapter 77, Whiteout Village. Our cover page for this week is Urza buying a sword, which I'm actually quite curious if this is a sword for a new armor coming up that we're going to see, if it's like a little bit of a spoiler. To be honest, I really like the few times we've actually seen Urza like buying stuff, because I know it was like in the first movie, she was like buying like a wedding dress or something. I like those little moments that we see of her buying stuff, and I wonder if there's actually any references to weapons on the back, because there's pretty small weapons in the back and they're pretty detailed. So I wonder if there are like references to like Rave Master or like Eden Zero or whatnot, or other stuff that Mashima likes. Overall, I really like seeing Urza buying a sword, so I like this cover page. So we pick up our chapter where we left off with the last chapter, with Ferris going to the Whiteout village and seeing that it's all destroyed, and you see the destruction and whatnot, and we actually reveal who is the silhouette. You get Ferris immediately blaming this guy for destroying the village and whatnot, and he's just like, I was just passing through, I had nothing to do with this. So of course, Ferris does not believe him in the slightest. They're like, there's no way you could have just been passing through here and just go through like a mountain range to this village. They even point out that his magic is like the magic of an Earthland wizard, and that he shouldn't even be there. And he just plays it off like, oh, yep, yeah, you're right. I'm lost. Sorry. I just got lost. Yeah, And the unknown guy is just like, yeah, I wouldn't cut down women anyway. This wasn't my doing here. And then you actually get the name of the unknown dude. And as far as I can tell, it is pronounced Suzaku. And it says that he was summoned there. And then you get the reveal of who was actually saying that. And that was the Grand White Priestess. So Ferris and the White Priestess are both wondering how each other is doing, how they got there, whatever. Now, this part of the chapter, I'm actually not too sure if the translation is correct. It's probably not, because I don't think the word entirely makes sense to me. So if it is a tad bit off, because I haven't actually even seen the official chapter of it, so I don't know what the actual translation is for that. But for the one I have, they're calling everyone that attacked the village Sumeaka, which it says in a little translation note, fingernail dirt, or like what? And even the people around there are like, Sumeiko, what is that? So essentially what they are, I guess, are monsters born from hands, and they seem to be camouflaged as people, so they're not actually people. So essentially it's probably like the yokai thing, to where they were controlling things to make them look like people, I guess, and attacking this village. Essentially the giant like hand that was from the ocean or whatever, I guess that's what these creatures are born of. But for the most part, the way they're talking about it is these hands or whatever haven't turned into these monsters for decades now, and this is just a weird thing that's happening right now. But essentially they're blaming it all on Silene, and that it was her power that basically made the hands get distorted and start attacking the village and turning the whole planet into a mess. You get the Whiteout Priestess basically saying as to why she took an Earthlander to actually fight Silene, which, for Earthland, she's calling him a dragon hunting expert from Earthland. But it's kind of interesting that she picks him as a dragon hunting expert, because no one really seemed to even know really about dragons in Earthland. One of the few good people to probably pick would be a dragon slayer, and as far as I can tell, this guy isn't a dragon slayer, but who knows, he might be. He's definitely not a first gen one. If he is, maybe a gen 2. He's essentially like sulking, and he's like, oh, I was summoned forward to fight Silene. So my question is, how old is this guy? Because they say I was dragged here against my will as well. Then the Grand Priestess is saying, can we rely on your dragon hunting skills? Which, if every dragon was basically dead in the current storyline, and they were alive like 400 years ago, the only like ones that are really around were kind of like Acnologia level. So how much dragon hunting is this guy doing? And also, how did we not know about him beforehand? As if he's hunting dragons at that caliber, how do we not know about you? So you get Ferris, of course, wondering how did this all happen and what's going on here. So you get the Grand White Priestess essentially explaining everything and basically saying that Silene's magic is making the world unstable, probably to the point of where it's going to explode or whatever. And essentially what we've already said in previous chapters, pretty much the only way to stop it is by killing Silene. Now, this is the weird part of this whole thing, because in agreement, essentially, that, oh yeah, Silene definitely needs to be stopped. She is a crazy woman. But, now this is where you get the kind of weird part of this, because the Grand White Priestess and everyone starts going against Fairy Tail in the sense of, we're not for Fairy Tail. Like, they're trying to say, like Fairy Tail stopping him, when in all actuality, everyone's goal is to bring down Silene. Now, I'm very interested as to what guild Suzaku is actually part of, because he calls Fairy Tail the enemy, and he literally says, I know them as the foe of my guild. So what guild is he part of? And most of the guilds that have made enemies with Fairy Tail have pretty much been destroyed. So I'm very interested as to what guild he is part of, because there is very few enemies of Fairy Tail that have their guild still alive. I mean, it confirms he's in a guild, so what guild is he part of? If you got a theory as to what guild he's part of, I guess leave it below. And of course you get Ferris and whatnot defending them, saying like, they're not bad people, why are you trying to kill Fairy Tail? What the flip, man, come on. And the Grand Priestess immediately okays it. You're like, yeah, go freaking kill him. Assassination order given. Yeah, go. You get her underlings, I'm guessing, telling her there's a second wave of enemies approaching. And the monsters that show up here are actually pretty unique designs. They got like dragon bellies, so I wonder if they're like a creation of Silene. Each of the heads are different. Like one's like a praying mantis. Two of them look pretty demon dragony, I guess. Which the women that are fighting to protect this village, they're just holding little staffs. I really doubt they could beat this guy. Now Suzaku literally is just sitting there, you know, kind of looking like he's sulking, and everyone's kind of freaking out about these monsters that showed up. And he does the anime thing of, he puts the hand on the sword, you know, it's just a clean shot of his hands on a sword. He didn't even stand up, and all the monsters behind him are immediately dead. So either this guy has like a time-based magic, Demaria from the Spriggan 12, to where it looked like her body wasn't moving, but she actually had like a time space around her where she could like run around and like cut you up. For you, it looked like an instant, but for her, it was like a couple minutes. So maybe he has like a magic like that, or something like Racer, I guess, too. If he doesn't have that, like, what flipping speed does this guy have? Because he didn't even move like an inch. He was still sitting down the whole time, and he just like moved his sword and just immediately cut them behind him. Very chill about it too, because he's like, 'tis because it is already done. He must be a little bit Shakespearean as well. And even everyone that like is in the room with them is like, whoa, bro, that was like an insane attack. Like, you didn't even move and you killed all them. What the flip, man? He immediately goes on the mission, because he's like, hey, where's Silene? I'm ready to cut her down. And they're like, oh yeah, she's on the Black Mountains, you know, just chilling, partying, doing the usual dragon stuff. So he goes to go kill Silene, and the final shot with him, and the final shot of him looks very Mard Gear. That's immediately what I thought of, at least with his hair and whatnot. He ends with the phrase, she shall be cut down, and should they stand in my way, so shall Fairy Tail. Now we go back to the Black Moon Mountain, and you get Urza freaking out that she was a spider. I love this little moment of the chapter. This is like the one little moment of the chapter that actually kind of made me laugh a bit. You have Urza freaking out that she was a spider. You go to everyone else that was a yokai, talking about how they were yokais. And you go to Wendy first, and she was like, yeah, I was a cat. And she looks very, very embarrassed. I like how happy he's just freaking out that he's like, I was a tiger, yeah. And Carla's just like, I'm so done with this dude. Oh my goodness, you're bragging about being a tiger, come on. And Aquarius, yet again, to another person, has to brag about Lucy's yokai. And she immediately like glares at Lucy with the most smuggest look, and she's like, yeah, this one over here, yeah, she had her boobs out, yeah, she was naked, yeah, should saw it. And Lucy is like freaking out that she said it again, and she's like, would you stop telling them? Would you please stop telling them, Aquarius, please? Just this one time, please stop telling them. Yeah, that little moment made me laugh right there, and I quite like that moment, because I like Aquarius being real smug. Now this is what I was actually wondering in another chapter, because Urza points out, it's like, hey, I wonder what Natsu and Gray would have looked like if they were yokai. Natsu immediately comes up with what he would have wanted to be as a yokai, and he would have wanted to be a dragon candle yokai. And you get a little picture of it, and Lucy just looks at him like, come on, dude, that's so lame. That's out of any monster thing you could have been. You wanted to be a dragon candle, come on. So you get Gray immediately like, so this is where Silene lives. We're in her base right now, and Natsu immediately chimes in. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the top and we'll kick her butt. But everyone else in the group at least was sensible, because Aquarius points out, she's like, they're using very strange techniques here. That is not magic. You can't just rush into this. And Wendy immediately chimes in as well, and she's saying, yeah, if we don't take the proper measures, we will lose again. For the most part, everyone except for Natsu wants to do a little bit of training before they go take on Silene again, because it is different from magic what they're using, and they will not win just on solely magic. But just as everyone's thinking about retreating and going to build up their strength, someone starts floating in, and they're like, oh, you think you can get away, huh? And it is Yuko coming there to stop them. And I wondered about this because I said it in the previous reviews. I'm like, oh, I wonder when she shows up if she's going to try and turn them into different yokai, like, so we could technically see Natsu and Gray as a yokai. And yeah, she says, yeah, I'm going to change you into even uglier yokai this time. So look forward to that. And they're just like, oh, Gray, it's her again. Come on. I like this little moment too. Aquarius is like, oh, so she was the one that turned you in the yokai. And Lucy's just like, at least make me fully clothed this time. I'm going to guess everyone under Silene has to have either a lot of magic power, or their magic power is very different from the normal people, because Natsu and Gray point out her magic power, and then they're like, oh, it's just like the snow lady again. Which Natsu and Gray, when they were fighting her, they immediately lost. So this will be very interesting. But Wendy points out what the power that they're actually noticing is, and she says it's spirit power, and she's saying it's a lot different from magic, and she starts enhancing everyone. And even with that, Yuko is just like, oh, you still don't get it, huh? She's got quite the evil look to her face, and you cut to the final page of the chapter, and she unleashed a ton of monsters. This is a very epic scale. If this actually goes like into fights, like this could last a few chapters right here. All this stuff. Like this chapter has a true epic scale to it. Like this reminds me of 100 monsters thing from the Grand Magic Games of Urza fighting them, like just the scale of monsters to them. All these monsters, she calls it the true horror of pandemonium. You definitely get a good sense of scale, because you see Team Natsu and compared to all the monsters, and oh my goodness, they are like nothing compared to the size of these monsters. But then again, they fought big monsters before, aka Lullaby, and those were jokes to them. And that is the end of our chapter. So my thoughts on this chapter. I'm not sure why the Grand White Priestess is hating Fairy Tail. What did they do to them? I'm not sure. At the end of the day, they all have the same goal of killing Silene. I suppose you need to learn more about the Grand White Priestess and Suzuko. I definitely need to learn more about him and how he fights dragons. Like, is he a dragon slayer, and or / what guild is he from? For the most part, I guess he has a pretty cool opening display on how he just kills the monsters with like zero effort. I very much want to know what that magic is. Whiteout Village stuff, I don't particularly care. I liked it when we went back to Team Natsu at Silene's base. I thought that was very interesting, and I liked their little banter and whatnot. And I liked the opening to the Yuko fight, and I very much like the scale of all the monsters. And I really like Aquarius's smug remarks yet again. For the most part, the chapter is fine. The beginning, the Whiteout stuff, I felt was maybe a tad bit slow, and I wasn't sure if I was even reading it right with the translation, so I guess I'll have to read it again when I see the official translation. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty decent. It's still a lot of unknowns with the Whiteout stuff, but I'm very excited for the Yuko fight coming up here, so I guess leave your thoughts below on what you thought and any upcoming video ideas you guys would like. I did get a comment about making a Lucy Stardress video. I did record all the audio for it, I just got to edit it now, so I'm going to try and get that out within the next week here. I'm going to do the chapter review first, because that's just the weekly thing I've been doing. A Lucy Stardress video is going to be coming out very, very soon, so look forward to that. Got any more video ideas, let them below. This is Draco, signing out.